This giant bucket of popcorn costs the movie theater only a few cents to actually make, and they will happily sell it to you for $8 whole. Meanwhile, on the movie ticket you just handed over at the door, that very same theater quietly keeps almost nothing at all. It feels completely backwards. The main event, the film itself, earns them next to nothing, while the little snack earns them a fortune. But this is not some strange mistake in their pricing. This is the entire business, cleverly hiding in plain sight. So here is the question that almost nobody ever stops to ask while standing at that bright, glowing concession counter. Why does a movie theater sell you a couple dollars worth of film and then charge you $8 whole for corn? To really understand it, forget the movie for just a moment. A cinema is not truly in the film business at all. Follow the money from your ticket, and you'll quickly see that it barely stays inside the building for very long. When a big new film first opens, the studio that actually made it takes the lion's share of every single ticket sold. In those first huge opening weekends, the studio can claim 70, 80, sometimes even 90% of the box office takings. The theater itself is left holding only a thin little slice of everything you paid just to get in the door. And out of that one thin slice, it still somehow has to cover staff, rent, projectors, heating, cleaning, and everything else. On the movie alone, a theater can only just barely break even, and quite often it quietly loses money instead. So the film glowing up there on the screen is not actually how the cinema survives. The film is only the bait. Its one real job is beautifully simple, to get you in through those doors, and then walk you right past the food. Because the very moment you catch that warm smell of fresh popcorn, the theater's actual, profitable business finally begins. At the concession stand, everything suddenly flips around. Here, the theater gets to keep almost every single dollar that you spend, no studio to share it with, no split to negotiate, just food, sold at prices that would honestly make a chef blush. Take the popcorn itself, the corn, the oil, the bag, the little squirt of butter, it all costs the theater almost nothing. A few humble cents of dry kernels puff up into a giant overflowing bucket that you'll cheerfully pay several dollars for. The profit margin on that single bucket of popcorn can sit somewhere around a staggering 85 or 90%. There are honestly very few legal products anywhere on Earth marked up quite as steeply as a tub of cinema popcorn, and the giant soda sitting right beside it is barely better for you and barely any more expensive for them to pour. Mostly crushed ice, a little cheap syrup, a splash of fizzy water, and it's sold to you for the price of a whole meal. So the cinema quietly earns the vast majority of its real, actual profit, not from the films at all, but from the snacks, which completely changes what this whole building really is. Look again, and it slowly stops being a cinema at all. It's a snack bar with a very large and very expensive glowing screen bolted on, purely to bring in hungry paying customers. And once you truly understand that, every single little trick waiting at that counter suddenly starts to make perfect sense. Start with the sizes. Look closely at the small, the medium, and the absolutely enormous giant tub of popcorn. That giant one costs the theater only very slightly more to actually fill up than the little small one does. But it's priced so cleverly that the medium looks a bit silly, and the giant suddenly feels like the only smart buy. For just $1 more, you get nearly twice the popcorn. How on earth could any reasonable person possibly say no to that? And that single extra dollar you happily added is almost pure profit, sliding straight into the theater's waiting pocket. Then, of course, comes the combo. Popcorn and a drink bundled neatly together for one friendly, rounded-off price. It genuinely feels like a great deal. Really, it's just a gentle nudge to buy the giant drink you were never going to. Every upsize, every combo, every cheerful "why not add some candy" is a few cents of cost and another whole dollar of profit. And you make every one of these little choices while relaxed, out for a fun night, your wallet already open and ready. You're not standing there price-checking corn. You're treating yourself, and the theater has carefully planned for exactly that mood. Even the simple walk to your seat is designed. The concession stand sits squarely between the front door and the screen. You physically cannot reach the film you paid for without passing a whole wall of warm, salted, buttery temptation. And even once you're finally seated in the dark, the selling still isn't over. That big screen keeps right on working. Before the film has even started, you sit patiently through trailers and adverts that the theater was actually paid to show you. Advertisers pay good money for those captive minutes, and you, sitting quietly in the dark, are the perfect captive audience. So the theater actually earns from three places at once: the studio's film, your pile of snacks, and the ads before it. But of those three separate streams, one of them quietly towers high above the other two, the food sitting in your lap. Now let's step quietly behind the counter, into the part of the whole business the audience out front never really sees. This is exactly where the tiny costs and the enormous prices finally meet, and where the real money is quietly made, buckets being filled by the second. Syrup pumped out by the gallon, profit margins that most ordinary businesses could only dream about. The film up on the screen is loud and glamorous. The little popcorn machine humming in the corner is quiet, and far more important. Let's picture the quiet negotiation that secretly shapes all of this, long before you ever walk up and buy a ticket. On one side, a powerful studio, demanding most of the box office in return for its shiny, expensive new blockbuster. On the other side, a theater that will calmly agree to it because it never actually planned to make its money there anyway. The theater happily gives up the ticket, smiles politely, and then quietly points you straight toward the popcorn instead. And so both sides win. The studio takes the ticket, the theater takes the snack, and only you, in the end, pay for both. And here is the part that quietly makes this entire arrangement so genuinely, almost unfairly brilliant. The cheaper a theater keeps that ticket price, the more people it pulls inside, and every one of them might buy the food. So a bargain matinee, a cheap discount Tuesday, a half-price seat, none of it is ever really simple generosity. It's a doorway. A deliberately low price on the ticket, purely to raise the odds on that $8 bucket of popcorn. The film gets you into the seat gets you comfortable and hungry, and the hunger in the end pays all the bills. This is exactly why theaters fought so incredibly hard to keep you out of your own comfortable living room. At home, you just pause the film and raid your own kitchen for free, and their entire clever business would quietly vanish. The real magic of the big screen was never only about the picture, it was always about the popcorn sitting right beside it. So now turn the whole thing around and take an honest look back at your own last little trip to the movies. You paid a little bit for the film and a whole lot for a giant bucket of air, salt, and melted butter. The ticket felt like the main purchase of the night. Really, it was just the small entry fee to the actual store. The popcorn felt like a small, harmless little treat. Really, it was the entire reason those grand doors were open at all. And none of this is a scam. Every price is printed, completely legal, and sitting right there in plain sight on the menu board. The real genius is that it never once feels like a trap. It simply feels like a warm, fun, relaxing night out. And a fun night out, priced this cleverly, is a far, far better business than merely showing people films ever could be. You were never really overpaying for some silly little snack that you didn't actually need in the first place. You were paying, quite happily and willingly, for the one single thing this whole building was actually built to sell. The screen was always the spectacle, but the popcorn, quietly, was the whole entire point of the evening. So the next time that bucket somehow costs as much as your ticket, or honestly even a good bit more, you'll finally understand why. It isn't really the theater being greedy at the counter, it's simply the theater quietly being exactly what a theater is. The movie was only ever the reason to gather a warm, relaxed, comfortable, and slightly hungry crowd into one dark room, and a hungry crowd, it quietly turns out, is worth far, far more than any single movie ticket ever possibly could be. Cheap film to draw them all in. Expensive corn to cash them all out. And ads in between just to top it all up. A humble little snack bar, quietly wearing the grand, glamorous costume of a beautiful old movie palace. So the next time you walk in for a film and somehow leave having spent more on popcorn than on the ticket, remember, you didn't get robbed at the counter at all. You simply bought exactly what they were really truly selling. You came in for the movie, the theater, all along, was only ever really in it for the popcorn.